you run with a kettlebell in your hand? Probably not. But then why is strength training is important for you as a runner? Let's break this down in a way I hope all of us can understand. When you think about running, we've got vertical forces compressing us, we've got front to back forces with acceleration, deceleration, and stability load side to side. Those forces are a given and they're not going to go away. These are kind of easy to grasp. But I want to break things down even a little bit more and tell you what happens that goes on in each individual joint. Most of us think about weight training, we think about the weight itself. The problem is when we run, we don't just run by moving weights. Muscles act a certain way. They pull, right? So I can take this kettlebell and I can shorten my muscle, which is called a concentric contraction. I can lengthen the muscle called an eccentric contraction, or I can hold it stable in an isometric contraction. But this is a flawed model for what running does to each individual joint. Let's break this down. A better model for running is to consider what happens as load goes through my muscles and my what? Tendons. So a better model for running is to actually put a band on this kettlebell. Why? Well, here's the reality. If you've got all that force you have to deal with stabilizing, pushing, compressing, pulling us around, we have to be able to deal with that. So muscles have two key functions. They support us. Muscles actually hold isometrically. When you're running, your muscles actually aren't having a lot of shortening or lengthening take place. They're actually pretty static. The other function they have is stabilization. Remember, we don't just run straight, we have to stabilize against those forces in all directions. That line of spiral control we have to work on. That comes all over the place, right? So imagine my shoulder. If I can't steer my shoulder properly when I raise up, this is out of control. So that steering function of muscles helps us orient our what? Shoulders, core, hips, knees, and foot and ankle to make sure we can keep our parts straight. So we have to train things through what? A full range of motion. So we do things like proprioceptive training, which involves what? Getting the deep layers of the core to fire, getting our hip muscles to steer us, getting our quads and hamstrings to work in synchrony, and getting, yes, our muscles with our foot and ankle with Mobo to work to keep things nice and stable and solid. Now, we also have to consider the fact that, again, it's not just muscles. The work, mechanical change in length we see when we run occurs from this elastic band. That's our tendon. Remember, we said muscles have to support us, right? So that support function comes from keeping things stable. When you keep things stable, guess what you have? Better exchange of elasticity. Better elasticity means what? You run more efficiently. So when you think about your running program, people lump strength training all together. You've got to do training to work on stability and control, which I call kind of proprioceptive or waking up the body, getting the brain to fire. In Running Rewired, I call all these moves precision movements, right? It's learning how to steer the foot, steer the hip, control motion at the knee, control the proper muscles of the core. These motions and activities are essential in your training. You cannot neglect them because you have to move smart. You have to move well. So we have to take things through full ranges of motion under control. Quality matters. Don't rush these. Focus on form. And there also comes a time we have to do what? Increase the load to what? Improve bone density, improve muscle control, and yes, improve tendon load. So there's a time and a place for adding load to your training. So those of you who think bodyweight training will do everything, bodyweight training might be enough to work on proprioceptive control and stability, and in some cases to load your joints properly. There comes a time and place when you start to have to add overload to make sure you're preparing for the demands of running in a way that's going to reflect the demands of running. Have fun, good luck.